So, this past weekend probably yielded the two most popular movies of the year so far. I don't know if they still will be by December, but as of now, they're the two most popular movies that have been out in the year 2023. That is Spider-Man, Across the Spider-Verse, and The Little Mermaid. Now, I just saw one of them. I saw Spider-Man. I didn't really watch The Little Mermaid growing up, so I felt no desire to go see the live action one. But all I was going to do was just leave it at, do I think it's a good movie or not? And yeah, it was a fantastic movie. And my assumption is that The Little Mermaid was good based off the reception that I've seen. And I was just going to leave it at that, right? I'm like, anything political regarding these movies, I'm not even going to entertain, because some stuff I just want to leave for myself to enjoy. I don't really want to get into the nitty gritty of like all of the different sides people are taking surrounding the nature of the movie or the races of the characters or whatever. Like, I've done that before, and it has made the movie-going experience a lot less enjoyable. So I just said, F it. I'm going to just go watch the movie, and I'm going to just enjoy it. Unfortunately, that only lasted for one day. I saw this tweet, and maybe that's where I went wrong, looking at a tweet, but I saw it nonetheless, and it said, the number one and number two movies at the box office this weekend is a Black Mermaid and a Black Spider-Man. And anytime I see something like this, like a post or a tweet or an article like this, I like figuratively roll my eyes. I can't actually do it, so I'll just do it in my head. And not because I don't understand where this person is coming from, but it is odd to me how there are people out there who may enjoy a movie more or less depending on if the characters are black or not. And then when I see tweets like this or posts like this, it'll have you thinking that like this is the first time in 50 years that a lead role has been black, or that a movie with a black lead role has done well. Like, I remember watching the NFL draft, and one of the headlines made by ESPN was that the top 3 quarterbacks that were taken in the draft were black. I'm like, okay, who cares? You act like a black quarterback has never been taken in the top spots before. And now, like, your desire to publicize that is removing focus away from the game, and now you're just focusing on the race of it, as if this is revolutionary. They did that exact same thing during the Super Bowl. 2 black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl, as if there's never been a black quarterback in the Super Bowl, right? I understand what they're trying to do, but at some point you have to cut it off and just say, this is ridiculous, that we can't enjoy anything without people bringing race into it. And that's exactly what's happened here, is we can't even enjoy these movies without these social justice warriors bringing race into it. Now, a movie like The Little Mermaid was already under scrutiny, and it already was going through a bunch of controversy because the original character in the animated movie was white, and they decided to change it, and when they went with the live action version, they made the character black. Now, what I will say is, like I said, me personally, I didn't really care too much about it. I didn't grow up watching the Little Mermaid, so I didn't plan on going to see the live action. But I know that all hell would have broken loose if they took a movie with a lead black role and then redid it as live action and made the character white. I just know that for a fact. So I found that a little weird, but I figured after a certain amount of time, it would just blow over. People would go watch the movie. You either like it or you don't, and then you move on with your life. But then I'm obviously like looking at comments and other tweets that are similar, and it just reminded me of something that I've said before countless times. And now that I'm kind of seeing it unfold, it helps me to make sure that I'm not crazy and just talking out of thin air when I say certain things. It is insane how easy it is to please black people in this country. And this is a general statement, right? I'm not saying that this applies to every black person, but in the general sense, as much as some black people express their disdain for this country, the history of the country, the current state of it now, and how they believe it treats them, it is incredible how easily pleased some black people are. I think it goes without saying that there are so many issues within the black community, some which have been perpetrated by historic events, others egged on by the culture that we tolerate and the actions of us personally. But regardless of how they came to fruition, we have problems. And for some black people, they make it their life mission to blame white people or to blame the government or to blame history, therefore rendering themselves the least patriotic out of those who live in this country. So when I look at all these people getting excited because there's now a black Little Mermaid because they replaced the white girl with the black girl, and how the newest Spider-Man movie out is Spider-Man who's a black guy, it is insane to me how, in the general sense, as a community, this holds us over regardless of how many people express their disdain for this country. We have all of these problems that need to be addressed. Yes, some by us, but then yes, some also by the government. The government is a government for the people, so they need to be helping the people, right? But the government and even those in like entertainment and the media, they always find some way to hold black people over. And a lot of the times it comes at the expense of white people, as if white people today are responsible for what happened back then, right? So just take this movie, for example. Like I said, to me, it wasn't that big a deal. When I'm referencing the principle, it's a different situation, but I wasn't too up in arms because I had no connection to the movie personally. But in the original movie, the character was a white girl. So then you remake it into a live action. Ideally, you're trying to remain true to the story, and then you switch it to make it a black girl. Now, how I saw it was that, well, I don't really think it's fair to try to big up black people at the expense of white people. I think that this community is competent enough to come up with some original stuff and for it to be valuable in society and for it to elevate the community, right? That's just my opinion, but doing it at the expense of white people to really play like this tit for tat game is weird to me. And then you'll have all these people in the comments or tweeting about it who are like justifying it because, as I've said before, 400 years gives us immunity to move as we please when dealing with white people. But they turned this white character into a black character and basically ensured that the black community, in the general sense, for the next 2 to 3 months will be held over. They won't ask for anything. They won't demand anything because they'll be too stuck on the fact that, oh, we got a black Little Mermaid. And what it reminded me of was when they made Juneteenth a holiday. I remember when they made Juneteenth a holiday, it was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen. You got all these politicians, the vast majority of them white, who are sitting up at some podium signing it into law, into existence, that Juneteenth is now a national holiday. If you go on the calendar, it'll say it. They had this big production, and they were singing a song. It's probably like Amazing Grace or something like that. But that's the thing, is they didn't even know the words. Like the 2 or 3 black people that they had up there, all of these white politicians are just pandering to these people because they know that, guess what? We got them. We don't need to improve the quality of their schools or their neighborhoods or anything, right? We give them Juneteenth and they'll be fine for the next 6 months to a year. They talk about it every year. They make it such a big deal. I understand the significance of Juneteenth, but me personally, I didn't really care for it to be a national holiday. Or even if they were going to make it a national holiday, I didn't care for the theatrics of it. I don't care for the spotlight to be put on it every single year because they think that they're doing us a favor. No, but what you are doing is you're holding over a substrata of people within the black community who are fine, who take this as a win, and then just expect the rest to kind of follow suit. And that's exactly what's happening here. I look and I see, and the beauty of Twitter is that it's essentially the town square for online discourse. So you can see how popular a topic is, especially because a lot of discourse takes place online now. And it is astonishing to me how I just see so many people like co-sign it to this. Disney, Marvel, the companies that have made and produced Spider-Man and the Little Mermaid, they're not owned by black people. They are not. They're owned by white people. These movies making hundreds of millions of dollars in the first day or two, that's fantastic. And I take nothing away from that because at least from the one that I saw, it was a fantastic movie. And then from what I heard from the other one, it was a great movie. Regardless of the controversy that surrounded it, it was still a great. But the fact that this holds us over, the fact that we were able to replace a white character and we turned it black, that's a win for us. Okay, well, the heads of Disney and Marvel just got paid a lot of money because these movies made hundreds of millions of dollars in the first day, right? Let alone the first weekend. First weekend, they made a lot of money, and obviously, as it's gonna be shown further for like the next, month or so, it's gonna make more. But they've made a lot of money. So if you're one of those black people who's so hell-bent on blaming white people for everything or hating this country or attributing all your problems to the white man, well, guess what? They just finessed the number one consumer to go see a movie. I've mentioned it before how black people, compared to their population size, spend more money on quote-unquote goods and services compared to the next race over. So I find it really, really hard to believe that the heads of these companies who make any kind of product, whether it's movies or clothes or food, I highly, highly doubt that they don't know this information, that they don't take it into consideration. So when you take a bunch of white people who feel sorry for being white and you combine them with black people who so desperately want to see Black Little Mermaid. You mash them together and then bam, you get a movie who's done, I think, what, close to $300 million, and it's only been out for a week. Now, once again, I take nothing away from the actors and the actresses or whatnot. It's fantastic. And my thoughts on the movies, they're separate from the principle at hand here, which is if you're just going to go see the movie, just go see the movie and judge it based off its merit and how good of a movie it is. Stop trying to like play this weird game of, I'm only going to enjoy the movie if the characters are black, and I'm only going to be okay with replacing a character if it's a black character replacing a white character. And I'm only going to be okay with acknowledging Spider-Man for the first time in my entire life if it's a black Spider-Man. If it's the other three white Spider-Men, I'm never going to tweet about it. I'm never going to talk about it. Like, that's weird to me. That's so weird to me how you can't even allow yourself to go to a movie and enjoy it because you feel like the only way you can is if they're black. And then I even saw something else about the love interest in Spider-Man. Spider-Man in this movie is black and his love interest is white. And I saw people up in arms about that. Like, they're pissed because this black man is with this white woman. Mind you, it's a animation. This is not even live action. It's not a play. It's not like real. This is not only science fiction or fiction. I guess technically it would be science fiction, but this is not only fiction, it's animated. And you got grown adults who are arguing and who are pissed that the love interest isn't like two black people. It's a black person and a white person. Like, it's just weird to me, man. It's weird. I enjoyed the movie, and from what I've heard from The Little Mermaid, I heard it was a good movie, right? It should just be left at that. But where's the fun in that, right? Where's the fun in going to see a movie and not arguing about the racial component of it? I watched some interview, and this dude was like getting real philosophical on like the meaning of the movie behind the races or whatnot. And I guess movies can have subjective meanings to you based on what you go through in life and whatever. And I'm not taking anything away from that. But at the end of the day, it is an animation. And it's really geared toward children. So the fact that adults have hijacked it to make it some racial American story is so weird to me, man. It's so weird. But it is interesting, right? These people who are so hardcore on, I hate this country and white people have ruined my life, they're so easy to please. Who remembers when they said they were going to put Rosa Parks on the $20 bill? I remember that. I remember the buzz around that. It was crazy. And they ain't said nothing about it recently. I haven't heard anything about it since. But it had to have been like maybe a few years ago. They were talking about putting this woman on a $20 bill. Now, I personally wouldn't mind. I think it would be cool. But the amount of hype that I saw around it, you would think that the $20 bill would have gone up in value. Guess what? It would have still been the exact same, right? Representation is cool. But the emphasis that we put on it, as if representation actually changes the trajectory of the black community, that's crazy. No, action is what changes, right? Personal responsibility, holding your elected officials accountable, right? All the boring stuff, all the hard work, that's what changes the trajectory of this community. And with that being said, if you plan on going to see any one of these movies or both, just be careful, right? Be careful of listening to what people say, and definitely don't go on Twitter, right? Just go to the movies and enjoy the show. For the love of God, please just enjoy the show.